In many ways, life in 1804 was more like Roman times than today. Especially when it comes to how the Betts family lived. They built the first brick house in Ohio on a farm north of the Ohio River. The area that would become Cincinnati's West End was undeveloped when the Betts family moved here in 1802. It took William and Phoebe nearly 2 years to build a 2-room house with their own hands, making their own bricks, the same process used by the Romans.
It wasn't at all mechanized. It was much more like how they would have made bricks 1,000 years ago than it is like we make bricks today. William Betts and his sons in the fall would go and they'd dig up the clay and they would bring it back to the brickyard and they would just leave it out in piles over the winter. In the spring, after the clay was fully thawed, they would shape the clay. That had to be done by hand. They had brick molds that you could mold anywhere from 2 to 4 bricks at a time. And then after they had dried for a couple of weeks, then they would kiln them and actually fire them to get them to be the consistency of bricks. So the whole process, I mean, it took months and months and months to get from the starting point of the clay to an end product of a brick.
I'm Mark Atwood, Latin teacher at Villa Madonna Academy, and you're watching the MWOW Network.
It's time to compare the Betts house and Roman apartments.
Brick and concrete were really the most common building materials for apartments, with concrete filling the center part of the wall and brick on the outside to support it and to also add decoration.
Mr. Atwood's class built their own model of a typical Roman apartment.
We're just trying to construct a basic Roman insula, and it's basically just a 2-story apartment building.
I think the Betts house would have been very similar to Roman living.
Forget privacy or your own room. Everyone from the parents to the grandparents and kids lived together in just a couple of rooms.
The Roman family would have stayed together. Wouldn't have been uncommon for young adults to have been living with the parents and then those older generations also to have been living with that family nucleus. So you throw in mother and father and several children if everyone survives, and then if they were lucky enough to have a generation, an older generation living with them, I don't think it would be uncommon to have a dozen or more people all living in a 1 or 2 room apartment.
In 1804, the house that William and Phoebe Betts built was only 2 rooms. And when they moved into the house, they had 8 children and William's parents there. So in that 2-room house, there were 4 adults and 8 children. And they had 4 more children before they added on to the house. So there were a total of 16 people in this 2-room house. And so privacy, like we know it today, did not exist.
And they would only have running water on the bottom floors, and there would be no television, no nothing, just basic everyday living stuff that is not related to anything technological. So, I mean, it wouldn't be very much fun for any kids or anything.
So in many ways, life in Roman times and in 1804 was a lot different.